Hey, psst, you, come here. We had some complaints about your JavaScript code. Can you explain me what this is? No? I thought so. What is this? What the hell is this? Are you serious? I think we need to talk about your JavaScript. Hey my Shopify nerds, it's Bozy, your Shopify developer freelancer from Germany, and today we have a little bit more of a technical video going on. In the beginning, learning and writing JavaScript in a Shopify theme context was hard, but a fun thing to do. But the code I wrote was really bad. I oftentimes wrote JavaScript functions and logic all over the place in different files. I selected elements left and right and just hoped that there were no errors. Quick disclaimer, it was often not working properly. And if you feel the same, then don't worry, I got you. Today, I want to show you how to optimize your JavaScript code by using custom HTML elements. Learning about custom HTML elements was a real game changer for me, since it was so much easier to handle scope, clean code, reduce errors, and overall increase the performance of my code. And how the old Shopify gods always said, is the performance snappy, your client will be happy. So in this video, I'm going to tell you what custom HTML elements are and how to use them. Then of course, I'm going to show you how to create custom HTML elements so you can use them in your Shopify theme code. As always, keep watching because in the end, we are going to code a real life example by building a cart upsell in the cart drawer. Let's jump right in. Before we jump into the context of custom HTML elements, I first want to give you some JavaScript context. In JavaScript, we can define classes. Classes are blueprints for creating objects that share the same behavior. We can create classes by using the keyword class and then name the class. I call this cat. Then open up. In the class, we also can give the class some methods. For example, we have the method meow. And when we hit the method meow, we just want to console log. We have created the class cat, and now we can create objects based on the class. We can now create a variable called Mila, and Mila is a new object based on the class cat. When we go ahead and say Mila meow, then Mila meows. What you also can do, you can extend classes and build up on the initial class itself. Let me show you. We can also create a class of angry cat that extends cat. There we can overwrite the actual meow method, and because it's an angry cat, now it's meow. With extending it, we can also add stuff. So we can add a new method called hiss, because angry cats are hissing, and here we console log hiss. Now we created a new class called angry cat that is based on the original cat class. We can now create another variable called Effie and say Effie is a new angry cat. And when Effie meows, then it's an angry meow. And of course, she can also hiss. Perfect. But what has this cat class extending stuff to do with Shopify? In our liquid code, which is basically just HTML with liquid objects, we have different HTML elements. This can be the div, the h2, the button, the span, every HTML element. All these HTML elements are basically derived from the HTML element class. This means we can build our own elements using the HTML element class. Since we create our own elements, the whole logic is then encapsulated inside of this element and only fires when we place the element inside of the DOM. Then of course we can use these elements inside of our theme codes and just use the logic whenever we want to. And maybe you even realize this, but for example the Dawn theme even uses this technique to build new elements based on the HTML element class. Now we go from the cat example to the real custom HTML element example in the next step. To show you how to create a custom HTML element in your Shopify theme code, I opened up my theme editor. As always, if you don't know how to use a local theme editor, watch my video on the Shopify CLI and find out how this works. You want to basically build a accordion tab. So when you click on the heading, its content opens up, and if you want to close it, it closes up again. For this, we can go to our assets folder and just create a new JavaScript file, which is called accordion tab.js, and here it's basically the same syntax. We can just call this class accordion tab extends HTML element. As opposed to the cat example, we now have to do 3 more steps. The first step is called the constructor method and inside the super. This depends on the use case. It's not always important, but we just do it. We just call everything from the HTML element, so the accordion tab works as expected, but not super necessary. Then we have to call the connected callback method. This function always runs when the element is connected to the DOM, so initially basically. And the last thing is the disconnected callback method. This function always runs when the element gets removed from the DOM, which is super important for later. In the last step, we have to define the class accordion tab as a custom element, so the DOM recognizes it later. Therefore, we just write custom elements define. Inside of here, the first parameter is a string of the name of the element you want to give. Here, you have to be a little bit careful because you need to have at least 2 words separated by a dash. So you cannot call this accordion tab. It has to be accordion dash tab. This is because native HTML elements, which consist of 1 word, can be separated by the custom elements. And the second parameter is the actual class. Now we can also in here quickly say is connected, so we can check it. That's basically it. That's your first custom HTML element, and now we try to run it. I just opened my theme and I just added a small section called accordion tab. I added it, and if we go ahead and preview this and open the console, we can see that we have the connected, but we don't want to just console log something. We want to have the logic of a accordion tab. So for this, we go back to our section and create a div that has the attribute data header. When we click on the header, the content expands. So we also need a content, which we can call data content. And in here, I'm just going to put some default text, and also in here with a paragraph tag, also add some CSS so it looks better. I created also the CSS, and let's implement this in the section. Perfect. Now we have this section with the heading and the content, but it's still not working as an accordion tab, obviously. To give the functionality now, we can go back to our class accordion tab and write the logic for it. A big thing with using custom HTML elements is the this keyword. This is basically an object which represents this instance of the class, and we can use this to write the logic. Instead of using const or let variable assignment, we can say this tab header is this query selector, and then select the data header. And also we have this content is this query selector data content. We don't have to use the document query selector because the elements are all inside of the element. And of course, we need the click mechanism. So for this, we can just take the tab header and add an event listener of click. And when we click, we want to call the handle toggle method of this class. Here we have to do the same. We have to use the this keyword again, so we can call this handle toggle. To make sure this works, we can say console log this is a test. When we now go to our theme and click the header, we can say the click function is working properly. But of course, we don't want to console log something. We want to toggle the open state of the content. So for this, I'm using again the this keyword and say toggle attribute, and the attribute we want to toggle is open. When we go now to our element and click this, we can see, oh, it's not toggling the open of the accordion tab, but rather from the data header, which we don't want. That is because we are using the this keyword. But the problem here is, since we are using the event listener on the tab header, the this keyword in the function actually now points to the tab header and not to the instance anymore. To prevent this, we can use the bind method. So we can just say handle toggle bind to this. As you can see now, the open state toggles with the accordion tab. Perfect. The last thing we want to do, of course, is hide the content initially. Let's also give this a class because otherwise it looks pretty weird. We say accordion content, and here we have the class accordion header. So we have accordion content, accordion header, and now we can simply hide the accordion content. As you can see, it's hidden now, but when we have a parent of accordion tab with the attribute open, then the accordion content is displaying again. When we reload now and click on the header, perfect. We have a fully functioning accordion tab, which is pretty awesome. And the good thing is you can just reuse this wherever you want, and you basically just wrote this one time in JavaScript. To show you the magic, I just quickly modified the accordion tab section. I created some blocks, and for each block it creates an accordion tab with the title and the content. And when we go to our theme now, to the accordion tab, and just add this, this, and this, and they all work as expected as accordion tabs. And to show you that this works for complicated logic as good as this, we will build a cart upsell in the cart drawer. Let's go. I created already some upsell layout in the cart drawer, which basically just takes a product from the cart drawer settings. Then we have the heading that you might also like. Then we have the image, also the product title, the price, and then a add to cart button. But nothing works yet. To give this now the logic, we can simply wrap all of this in the cart upsell element wrapper. And because the cart upsell element for now does absolutely nothing, we can go ahead again into our assets folder and create a cart upsell JavaScript file. As always, we have to include the JavaScript file into our code. Now we can do the same thing again. We can define the class cart upsell, extends HTMLElement. Then of course, custom elements define cart upsell. Don't forget the dash, and in here the actual class cart upsell. Then in here again the connected callback and the disconnected callback. What is actually the logic of a cart upsell? We have two things. The first thing is we want to add the item to the cart, and the second thing is we need to refresh the cart because otherwise it won't appear in here. To add an item to the cart, we can actually use the cart API, and also we need a form to get all the data for the API call. I quickly implemented the form for the button, just the form, added some name quantity input and name ID input with the actual ID of the variant we want to add. And if we click add to cart now, it works, but it redirects to the cart page. We don't want this. To give the cart upsell the right logic, we first have to add to cart and then refresh the cart. What we want to do is first take the form. Now that we have the form ready, we can go ahead and add a new event listener to the form. When we have a submit event on that form, we want to handle the submit and bind to this, of course, and we can also create the handle submit method. The first thing you want to do here is take the event and prevent. And since we are using the event, we also have to give the event parameter, and we can test this by console log prevented. And as you can see now, the form gets prevented from adding the cart. Now though, we have to create the add to cart ourselves. Since I will do a separate video on the cart API, I'm just going through this quickly. So basically you can take the form and create a new form data out of it, and then fetch the cartadd.js endpoint, which is basically the endpoint to add stuff to the cart. In here you can take the form data, and that's basically it. So when we go in our theme again, add to cart, nothing works. But if we refresh now, we have this snowboard helmet in the cart. The first step of adding stuff to the cart is done. Since we don't want to reload the page every time we add something to the cart, we now have to re-render the cart. To re-render the cart, we can just go ahead into the last then response and say this re-render cart, and also create the method re-render cart. For this re-render cart method, I just re-render basically the cart section. This will also come in a future video, don't worry. I just catch the cart drawer section and replace the content of the cart drawer with the new content of the cart drawer after the add to cart. And if we go to our theme now and we add to cart, it gets added to the cart. Since we are re-rendering the cart drawer with its whole content, and we also re-render the cart upsell with it, it is good to always disconnect the old element first before reconnecting it with the cart re-render. To show you why you should always use the disconnected callback also and remove the event listeners, I created this. This is basically the document body, and on click it console logs this is bad. And if we go to the console now, we click on the body and it's fine. It's always just like one time. And if we now do this, because it gets re-rendered, we click, it's 2 times, and click, now it's 3 times. and click. Now it's 4 times, and so on and so forth. So it multiplies itself, and this is because we don't remove the event listener from the body when disconnecting. So this is just like a really rough example, but this can happen also with your event listeners for your elements inside the custom element. Since we have to remove the same method as we added to it, typically you would think you can just copy this, insert it here and say remove event listener. This is not working though. The binding to this actually changes the method itself, so this is not the same. What we have to do in this case, we can just take the handle click method and assign it to the handle click method, bind to this, and now we have this handle click in here, and now it's basically the same, and also remove it in the disconnected callback. When we go back to the theme and click, it's 1, 2, 3, add to cart, 1, 2, 3, add to cart, 1, 2, 3. So the event listener is always there just one time. Really important. That's everything you need to know about custom HTML elements so you can use them on your own. No chaos and random JavaScript everywhere anymore. Get to coding, try out custom HTML elements and let me know in the comments how you like them. As always, I would appreciate a subscribe because I take a lot of time creating these videos and try to give you some good value. You can also join my Discord community where I try to build a community solely for Shopify developers. We solve a lot of problems and have good talks, so this is especially nice for beginners in the Shopify developer community. Lastly, I want to tell you that I work on a Shopify Developer Academy where I want to teach you how to become a Shopify developer. So if you're interested, check the links in the description. See you next time. Bye bye.